China FUD, regulatory issues, and the death of cryptocurrency as we know it. Hey guys, Sheldon Evans here. Welcome back. I am back from a short break. As some of you may know, I've been dealing with some personal issues. We've overcome those and we are back on track. So if you guys want to help kickstart this channel and get it back into YouTube's algorithm, please give it a like, hit the share button, and share it to Facebook or Twitter, wherever your family and friends are. I would really appreciate that to help kickstart the channel again. But without further ado, let's hop into what is going on with the market and all this regulation and FUD, and let's take a quick look at the chart. So I'm sure many of you are very well aware that right now I have the Bitcoin US dollar chart open on my display, but I'm sure many of you are aware that over the past month or so, Bitcoin and Ethereum has done nothing much of excitement. It's pretty much been ranging, and I have been sharing my thoughts while I've been absent from this channel, at least intermittently on my Patreon. So if you do want to see what I think of the charts and what my outlook is on the charts over the past few weeks and going forward, head over to the Patreon for some additional content there too. But with that being said, Bitcoin has pretty much been doing nothing. It's been stuck between this $30,000 to $40,000 range. I give the exact info on my Patreon, but there's this one looming dark cloud that is the real determining factor as to which direction the market is going in right now, and that is, of course, the FUD and regulation. And we start off with none other than the Bank of China, stating that Bitcoin and stablecoins have become speculative tools with potential risks that threaten financial security and social stability. Also, they become payment tools for money laundering and illegal economic activities. Now, this is a very interesting take that the governments and regulatory bodies are taking on the cryptocurrency market. And there's two P's that are important here: power and profit. And we'll discuss both of these coming up in this video as to how this comes into play when regulations start being pushed forward and policies start being pushed forward, and how these two P's become the most important factors in this side of things. Now, what is wrong with stablecoins? Why does China hate stablecoins? Why are they trying to ban this now? Or why are they trying to regulate stablecoins? Now, we know the history of China ban and China FUD basically trying to ban Bitcoin since its inception, with mining bans and economic bans and environmental bans. We've got all of these sort of weighing down on Bitcoin. But lately, they've taken a new approach, and that is with stablecoins. Now, the central bank is worried about stablecoins because they pose risks to global financial systems. Now, what does this mean? Well, some commercial organizations' so-called stablecoins, especially global stablecoins, may bring risks and challenges to the international monetary system and payments and settlement system. The governor stressed that the PBOC, the People's Bank of China, will apply the same restrictive measures that it took on Alibaba's Ant Group to other entities in the payment services market. Now, this is a very important statement, and the reason being is that there is no real threat here to the global monetary system. Perhaps there is a threat in the terms that it may change and the power or control over the entire financial system may shift from that of central entities, which is what cryptocurrency is designed to do. It is designed to decentralize power and decentralize control and spread it out and make it a more fair, equal, and trustless system. But regulatory powers and people in control and institutions in control are afraid of this, and that is where power comes into play here. They are losing their power, so they will do whatever they can in their current positions of power to try and stop that and prevent that, because once that has happened, there is no going back. There's perhaps an ability to slow down that process, but if they act quick enough, they could perhaps halt it in its tracks, but that's not going to happen. As you guys know, the power of blockchain, the power of cryptocurrency is here to stay if regulatory bodies can act just slow enough. But there's one important statement here is how they took measures on Alibaba's Ant Group. So according, as previously reported, the Chinese state halted Ant's $37 billion IPO last November, also launching an antitrust probe into Alibaba. Now, if you guys would have remembered this correctly, basically Ant Group launched their largest IPO ever with $37 billion. And this angered a lot of these larger people in power. Because why? Because this power is now moving away from these central entities. It's now moving to individuals, it's moving to companies. And if this power moves to a more decentralized network, it moves to the people, it moves to companies, it takes away the power from governments, and they don't like that at all. So what they have to do, they have to regulate it, they have to probe it, they have to stop it in its tracks. And that's exactly what's happening now with stablecoins and with cryptocurrency as a whole. They aren't posing threats to the global financial system that would be bad in the long run. All it's doing is it's shifting the power from that of these central entities to the global market as a whole, to the individual, to the retail investor, to smaller entities, and making it a fairer system. But the world is not fair. The world does not want to be fair. They want to be powers that are in control. There are people who want to be at the top of the food chain, at the top of the ladder, and they don't want to lose those seats. So that is exactly what's happening now. And that's why regulation can, in fact, halt Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole in its tracks if it acts quick enough. But as we know, these legacy systems, these legacy financial markets take a while to act. They are slower because they are so monolithic. They are mammoths. They can't really move very quickly. So the smaller guys can move faster, they can innovate, they can move, and they can change things fast enough to hopefully outpace these slower, archaic systems. And we can see that. Meanwhile, some of the world's biggest payment companies, such as Visa, have doubled down on their positive stance on stablecoins. And this takes us into the second P. So I mentioned there are two Ps: power and profit. Now, when regulation comes into play, firstly, it's people or institutions or entities losing power. And secondly, it is for profit. Often you will notice that when there are regulation issues, not just in the cryptocurrency market, but in any market, often it could be the competitor trying to impose on their competition. So they would place new regulations down or propose new changes and things like that to try and stifle their competition. Why? Because they want the most profit. They, again, are trying to work their way up to a position of power, and you do that through profit. Now, this is one of the reasons why Visa would be accepting of stablecoins, accepting of cryptocurrency, and doing things like this. Visa reporting over $1 billion in crypto spending in the first half of 2021. It's clear the crypto community sees value in linking digital currencies to Visa's global network, and it's starting to live up to the promise of digital fiat. Now, why would Visa be so accepting of cryptocurrency? They're a traditional fiat system. They're a traditional fiat institution. Why would they be accepting of cryptocurrencies? Profit. No matter how well cryptocurrency does, no matter whether it goes up, whether it gets regulated, whatever happens to crypto, Visa will be profiting from increased transactions, from increased settlement. They are on the side of cryptocurrencies because no matter which way it goes, they are going to be making more profits. They know they are the first to move on this. They are accepting of it because it is in their favor no matter what happens to cryptocurrency. Now, this is a very interesting thing because they are continually innovating. Visa is partnering with over 50 companies to allow clients to spend digital currencies, even those who do not accept crypto. Now, this is the interesting thing, right? We think that this is an amazing thing that Visa is now accepting crypto and allowing businesses to spend their crypto. But is that really such a good thing? Not entirely. The merchants don't have to change anything. It will be the same as any other Visa transaction to them, but on the back end, the crypto assets are instantly converted to fiat. Now, you have to remember this. If you have crypto, you have Ethereum, you have Bitcoin, whatever it is, maybe Dogecoin, and you want to purchase a loaf of bread. You're going to go to your merchant, you're going to swipe your card, your crypto is going to get deducted, and it's going to be converted into fiat on the other end. Now, what does this mean? Well, in my eyes, it means that it's sucking value out of the cryptocurrency ecosystem back into the traditional fiat ecosystem. You're doing a crypto to fiat conversion. So the more transactions that happen through Visa with crypto, the more money Visa makes, but the more money that is sucked out of the cryptocurrency market. So this just shows you that it doesn't necessarily mean that we have these large institutions and large companies coming to the space because they're so supportive of cryptocurrency. They are coming into the space for one, profit, and two, power. The two Ps that are most important in this world to any institution, any business, any individual looking to control the world. So always keep that on your mind when you're looking at these news articles saying that banks are accepting of cryptocurrency. There might be a hidden or an additional agenda that isn't truly on the forefront of their announcements or their acceptance of cryptocurrency. So always keep that in the back of your mind. Now, let's move on to regulation and talk about what's happening with regulation in cryptocurrency right now. So from mining to software, China's regulatory crackdown on crypto continues. Regulators have urged people to promptly report tips about violations of laws and regulations related to virtual currency transactions. In June, the PBOC ordered major domestic banks and mobile payment service providers to deny certain services to customers engaged in crypto-related transactions, as well as warned against the involvement with crypto-related businesses. Do not participate in virtual currency trading activities. Do not blindly follow virtual currency-related speculative behavior, and be aware of the damage to personal property and rights, said the two regulators. Personal bank accounts should be cherished and not used for withdrawing or funding virtual currency accounts to prevent illegal use and the breach of personal information. Now, it just shows you how they can script and mold the narrative to fit whatever it is that their agenda is. Now, of course, they are losing power, as we've spoken. The cryptocurrency is drawing a lot of the power away from banks, from central entities and these institutions. So what they will do is frame it in this sort of dark, shrouded area or narrative to scare people away from it, to prevent illegal use and the breach of personal information. You should cherish your bank account and not use it to withdraw virtual currency accounts. I mean, that is just insane. That's just crazy. And this is the kind of manipulation and indoctrination that they'll use to try and scare you out of this market, because they don't have the power anymore. They are losing control. And the only way they have this is fear-mongering and fear tactics to try and keep people away from this at this point. Cryptocurrency is becoming so widespread. It's becoming so used, and you can't really stop it. So the only thing they can do is try and regulate it into the ground or scare people as much as they can from using it. And it just shows you that they are very afraid themselves, saying that you should cherish your bank account. If my bank account or bank, whoever it is going to tell me what to do with my money and stop me from purchasing cryptocurrency if I want to do it with my own money, my hard-earned money that I want to use, that I want to spend, that I can do whatever I like with, the bank gets to decide what I should do with it. I should cherish that bank account. I should cherish that company for allowing me to use their service, for allowing me to lock my money up in a bank account that they get to use and make money from, that I can't spend. And if I wanted to withdraw it all, they wouldn't be able to, because the world is based on debt and money doesn't exist. So it really doesn't make any sense that these institutions are trying to do this, or trying to regulate cryptocurrency, or trying to scare people out of using cryptocurrency, because crypto is used for the illegal side of things. Crypto is used for money laundering. It doesn't really make any sense at all. It just shows you that traditional archaic systems and institutions are very, very scared of cryptocurrency, because they do realize that it has the power to take on and challenge them as much as possible. We also have Binance suspending Eurobank transfers amid regulatory heat. So you might have noticed that Euro deposits via SEPA Bank transfers are not allowed on Binance anymore. Binance has become very much under the radar lately, under the microscope, being pushed by regulators and being attacked by regulators. Binance has nothing to hide, I don't think. Of course, I know nothing behind the scenes. I have no information, but it just shows you that they are targeting the big guys. Binance is one of the world's biggest exchanges. I think possibly even the world's biggest exchange. Barclays, Santander Bank also block payments to Binance. These are all things that are happening right now to scare people away from using cryptocurrency. Of course, this might not be a negative thing. Perhaps they are just awaiting regulation. I'm sure many of these exchanges, many of these crypto businesses would welcome regulation, because then it gives them clearer sight. It gives them clarity as to which direction they should go in, what they should do, what they should work on in order to comply and work with traditional regulations and laws and so on. But it's sort of this area that we're in right now, this gray area where no one has true direction as to where to go or what to do, because traditional systems can't provide that with us, because they truly don't even understand what is going on right now. So we're in this stage of sort of gray area and trying to figure out what the heck is going on and which direction the crypto market's going to be going in, whether it does become a black market sort of thing if regulators don't agree with it entirely, or it's sort of we get some sort of compliance and clarity as to which direction we're going to be going into and where the regular market should be headed. But with that being said, we do have some sort of guideline as to when we might get some clarity on this. Elizabeth Warren, the US Senator, gave the SEC until July 28th to figure out crypto regulation. So she voiced her concerns about the lack of regulatory clarity involving crypto and the energy usage of proof-of-work cryptocurrencies during a June subcommittee hearing. So we do have a date now for when we possibly might be seeing some clarity on the regulatory issues around cryptocurrency. So in this next month, you can expect some serious volatility. We don't sort of know which direction the market's going in. Perhaps this could lead to a major dump, or maybe there's positive news surrounding regulation and we see a huge pump into the end of the year. But at this time, we're sort of in this limbo stage. We don't know what's happening. And until we have some clarity on which way the market's going to be going from at least a regulatory standpoint, we don't actually know what the heck is going on. And you shouldn't listen to anyone who believes that they can predict the future surrounding cryptocurrency, because they cannot. And now we have from Crypto.io, so just as I mentioned, we have the July 28th day. Don't gamble all your corn away. In the meantime, the kicker is that Tesla reports on the same day. So this is where I say that we don't actually know which direction the market's going in. Maybe there's an up, maybe there's a down. And with Tesla reporting on the same day, maybe it comes out that Tesla has sold all their Bitcoin, or they've acquired more Bitcoin and brought their dollar average entry down. We don't actually know. And we know that these announcements and these news events can have huge impacts on the market. So at this point, I'm sitting on the sidelines, I'm sitting back, waiting to see what happens, and you let the market come to you rather than trying to chase it, because with things like this, we don't actually know which direction the market is going in. There are so many variables right now that will determine whether we go up, down, or sideways, that I wouldn't trust anyone to predict which way it's going. But with that being said, we're going to move into some of the good news surrounding crypto right now and see maybe not all is shrouded in sadness at this time. There's some silver lining somewhere, and that is NFT sales topped 2.5 billion in the first half of 2021. So as you guys know, there was the initial NFT bubble, the NFT peak. Now, while many people thought that all NFTs are dead, the truth is that I've mentioned in previous videos what my thoughts on NFTs are and why I believe that NFTs are here to stay for as long as cryptocurrency is going to be around. Whether that is in the form of speculative art, possibly not. I believe that most of those NFTs will trend towards zero eventually. Sure, there will be some that will hold value over time, but in the true side of NFT things like virtual contracts, real world assets being tokenized, real estate, things like that, NFTs have an incredible use case. And even from the speculative side of things, we've seen that there's been $2.5 billion in NFT sales in the first 6 months of this year. That is incredible. That's a massive increase over the $13.7 million in sale for the same period in 2020. So it does show that the NFT market is still growing, even if it is from just a speculative side of things or a speculative nature. We have so many use cases for NFTs, whether it's in-game NFTs, whether it's virtual worlds. All these things are evolving. And one of the quotes that will always stick with me for the rest of my life is something that I heard when I was just a kid, saying that you don't actually know what your career will be when you finish school, because that career may not have even been invented yet. And that couldn't be more true for me personally, is that when I was in school, anything that I'm doing right now, everything that I've done in my life pretty much did not exist at the time. So trying to predict which way the future is going to go in, where NFTs are going to be used, we don't even know their true use case yet. We don't even know where it will all be used. So saying that it's dead before it's even begun doesn't really make much sense. So NFTs still bigger than ever. I'm super excited to see where they go, especially when we have true use cases for NFTs. Then we have the GBTC unlock in July. Again, sort of uncertainty around this month. There's many sort of factors happening this month that will influence the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum and the whole market together. And one of those being the GBTC unlocks. Now, many people sort of have confusion around what this is, but essentially the Grayscale Trust has Bitcoin that is going to be unlocked for, or at least Bitcoin shares that are going to be unlocked for the investors that they'll be able to sell on the open market. But remember, this is not necessarily spot Bitcoin that is going to put huge sell pressure on the market. These are shares that are going to be sold off on secondary markets and often at a premium to retail investors. So this misunderstanding around what happens with the GBTC shares is what causes downturns in the market, because during this time, people are afraid that, wow, $530 million of GBTC is going to be unlocked in July. So people short the market. That added shorting pressure, adds selling pressure, and that brings the market down. But it wasn't even the Grayscale Trust itself that added that selling pressure to the market. So there's so many factors that go into play here. Like I said, the entire cryptocurrency market is a psychological minefield. It's a psychological game that you need to work around and try and understand all the factors that come into play when trying to predict which way the market's going to go. And that's why I don't try and predict the future. Simply work with what we've got, look at the news, try and understand it as best we can. And sometimes we make some mistakes, but that's okay. Then we also have Ether possibly being able to overtake Bitcoin as a dominant store of value. So Goldman Sachs has announced that Ethereum blockchain has what it takes to unseat Bitcoin as the dominant store of value crypto. Now, I've been saying this for a while, that it is very possible that Ethereum eventually overtakes Bitcoin, whether that's in the next 2 years or in the next 10 years. I do believe that it eventually will happen. And the reason being is that where value gets captured. We've spoken before that Bitcoin's true use or true value comes from mainly a store of value, and that's why people compare it to the market cap of gold, which is around $9 or $10 trillion, and not necessarily to $100 trillion asset, because it is dominantly a store of value, whereas Ethereum is both a store of value and it has a use case, a settlement layer. It is a transactional system. There are many aspects to Ethereum that make it superior to Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin maxis can come at me and hate me for all they want, but again, remember when I say don't be a tribalist, don't stick to one cryptocurrency. Perhaps it's Cardano that comes around and throws Ethereum on its head, or Bitcoin dies, Ethereum becomes the major store of value, and Cardano becomes the transactional layer, or maybe Solana, or maybe DART. We don't know. There's no tribalism around here. All I'm saying is that we have banks saying that possibly Ethereum could dominate Bitcoin, and that sort of goes in line with what I believe is very much possible, at least in the next 5 to 10 years. Whether that happens or not, no one knows, and we'll both be here to be around and see what happens in the next 5 to 10 years. Let's look at some on-chain analysis to see what's happening with Bitcoin and Ethereum. So you guys would have remembered from previous videos a few months back when I spoke about NUPL, which is the net unrealized profit and loss. We've spoken about Bitcoin before, but we'll also be looking at Ethereum. And essentially what we're looking at here is how much of the supply of Bitcoin or Ethereum is in profit. And it's very similar to very much similar to the fear and greed index. So you can see that the red sort of indicates capitulation and the blues indicates euphoria and greed. Now, in past or previous bull runs, we peaked out with the double peak in 2013, with Bitcoin peaking out and hitting the euphoria stage twice. In 2017, when we had the one major peak, we peaked out in euphoria. And this time around, we came very, very close to it, but we didn't necessarily hit the euphoria or greed stage. Now, you will have remembered, if you go back to previous videos, and you'll see that I said that because this data is so prevalent, so many people have access to this data this time around, perhaps we don't actually hit this euphoria greed stage before we have a massive dump. And I mean, we came very, very, very close to it. If we go over to the chart and sort of, let me just zoom this in a little bit. And we just highlighted it this year. We came right to basically a millimeter before euphoria and before greed, right? And that is basically where we turned around and went back down. Now, does it mean that we won't come back to revisit this euphoric stage? No, but it does mean that your risk to reward ratio increases dramatically the closer we get to the euphoria and greed stage. And a very similar thing happened to Ethereum. We actually touched the euphoric or blue stage for Ethereum, even though it spent the shortest amount of time it's ever spent in that region. Once it's reached there, it did actually reach the euphoric stage, so perhaps that was the major or mild peak that we would have seen. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that we're entering a bear market or this is the end of cryptocurrency as we know it. It just means that we may see an extended bear market, we may see an extended few months of accumulation. I see many people are urging for an immediate turnaround as soon as Bitcoin rebounds a little bit, or Ethereum rebounds a little bit. People are calling for the start of the bull run again, and we're ready to make new all-time highs. That's not really how it works. Give it some time, let it cool off, let it reaccumulate. People still have PTSD from the dump and are scared to enter back into the market. And even if we do go back up, people are ready to take profit. So always be aware of this. We can't really predict which way this is going. And remember, how much data people have access to now versus previous bull runs, what people are looking at, what sort of narratives are being pushed. These are all the variables that come into play when trying to determine which way the market is going. That being said, institutions are net buyers of crypto for the first time in 5 weeks. So a few days ago, institutional managers became net buyers of digital asset funds, offering cautious optimism that the crypto market was turning a corner after a period of significant volatility. Funds devoted to Bitcoin saw a almost $40 million weekly inflow, bringing the year-to-date total to $4.18 billion. Now, I don't necessarily believe that this is the turnaround, that this is the end. We may see some additional volatility. This is not how the market works. It doesn't just simply end and turn around. There is an extended period of volatility. The market's going to be going up and down for a little while. Don't try and predict the exact bottom, just as don't try and predict the exact top. Take profits on the way up, take profits on the way down. dollar cost average in, as if you spread out your time horizon, spread out how long you enter and exit the market for, you're going to be much happier, your stress levels are going to be much lower, and you'll be able to handle anything that's thrown at you from the side of the cryptocurrency market. Or you can go the other strategy, which is simply hodl until you die, which I know some people who have done that and made a ton of money. So fantastic place to be. Then finally, we're going to end off with Argentina proposing allowing salaries to be paid in crypto. Now, crypto mass adoption, we've spoken about this many times, that it starts slowly and then all at once. And we've noticed this with El Salvador and many other countries, possibly even Paraguay, Argentina, now all looking to accept crypto or Bitcoin and paying their salaries in Bitcoin. Now, maybe this is the next step in Bitcoin being accepted as legal tender in Argentina, which would actually make sense considering the Argentine peso has been pretty much on a downtrend for the past 5 years. If we go over to the 5-year mark, it's pretty much been on a downtrend for the past 5 years, maybe all time. It's just been going down. So it would make sense for them to move over something to more stable, such as Bitcoin. Even though Bitcoin does have more volatility, it might be a more stable, sound form of money for a country like Argentina. And this goes for many other third world countries as well that are struggling with their traditional fiat. They may look to accept Bitcoin first. So we may see these smaller countries, smaller economies starting to accept Bitcoin or value Bitcoin as a legal tender before first world countries start doing this. Maybe it never even comes to first world countries like the US accepting Bitcoin as legal tender, but eventually something's going to have to give, and they're going to have to accept this. And this sort of gives me hope around the sort of regulation side of things. Would first world countries truly ban Bitcoin? Would they try to destroy it entirely? Would they be then destroying the economies of these smaller countries, these smaller economies that are relying on cryptocurrency and relying on Bitcoin? Do you want to be seen as the evil villain? It really depends on what sort of narrative these countries are pushing, regulators and people in power are pushing. But we're here to ride the roller coaster, see what happens, and enjoy the crypto market. And finally, I'm going to end off with one old quote from the good old Steve Wozniak. Gold is limited and you have to look for it. Bitcoin is the most amazing mathematical miracle. I do not invest in Bitcoin, but I believe it's here to stay. Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. Now, this is a very interesting quote because many people see a lot of support from huge technical minds and smart minds that we've seen over the decades. For one being Steve Wozniak, saying that he believes in Bitcoin, but he hasn't invested in it. Now, this is a very interesting aspect and possibly a topic for another video, talking about investment in cryptocurrency as a whole. Do we need it? Do we just need the tech? You don't have tokens for things like HTTP and TCP. Do we need tokens for the cryptocurrency economy? Maybe, because it's around the financial ecosystems, but as a whole, we see the smartest minds in the world all being very, very much supportive of cryptocurrency, especially the mathematical minds and the technical minds and analytical minds being very, very accepting of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency and blockchain, and very excited about it. And we see those that are in power, that are scared of losing their power, being against it. So in this time, I urge you all to pick a side, decide where you are on this sort of roller coaster seesaw. I'm sure if you're watching the channel, you're very much on the side of Steve here, accepting Bitcoin, that it's a mathematical miracle, and crypto as a whole. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. As I said before, if you want to help kickstart the algorithm, please give it a like, hit the share button, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.